believe in everlasting life?
My wife does.
But do you?
Montgomery VA Medical Center. This is Lee McLean, patient advocate. How can I help you?
Is Mark Hunt in?
Not at this second. He just stepped out to go to the restroom. He'll be back in a minute.
Do you mind if I ask you something?
Sure.
So that I can understand, what does a patient advocate do with the VA? What is their job?
We are the voice for you to the medical center. Basically, in a nutshell, that's what we are. Kind of a complaint department, kind of an administrative department, kind of a case management department, social work department. We wear a lot of different hats.
And so let me ask you, using secure messaging, which is another avenue that veterans have, even in the civilian world they have it. And you said, can you contact a patient advocate with your concerns through secure messaging? And especially in today's environment with all the virus panic going on?
You sure can.
And what would, if you're sitting on my side of the aisle as a veteran, what would you expect in response?
What would I expect in response?
From a message.
Depends on the nature of your dilemma, nature of your question or your concern or what your needs are. Sometimes what we do is we simply advise veterans of what they need to do because they're asking us, specifically, what can I do here?
Do you mind if I share with you this? I sent a secure message with a link to a story that should not have gone that far. It's going public. Washington's going to end up getting involved in it. And you send a message to a patient advocate. And in the story, there's concerns about the veteran not getting chemo. There's concerns about an employee there that allegedly committed a federal crime. So the message went out, and then I received a message in reply from Mr. Hunt. And it says, your message has been received. If you have any additional needs with your health care, please contact 1-800-397-8387. You may also reach the Patient Advocate Office at 918-577-3211 if needed. Respectively, Mark A. Hunt, Staff Sergeant, Retired Patient Advocate. That 918 number, that is Lisa Murray's number. And what in the world, do you know what this 1-800 number is?
Tell me again what it is.
1-800-397-8387.
397-83 what?
8387.
8387.
It says...
I'm thinking that is the 800 number to the VA Medical Center, I think.
Well, guess what? These people, when you call this phone number, they're getting really tired of it because they knew that I was trying to reach the VA. And it's very interesting. They must have had a bunch of calls to this number. That phone number that's given out is actually a Stanley Morgan financial office in California.
This number is 800-397-8387?
Yes. The guy said, "Are you trying to reach the VA?" And I said, How did you know that?" Because they've had a lot of calls and they're wanting people to have this number. You need to change this number. So here is my reply through secure messaging. Mark Hunt, are you really serious with your last message? The 1-800 number you gave goes to a Stanley Morgan financial office in California. They are also tired of people calling who's trying to reach the VA. I would have hoped. Wait a minute. Let me back up. What is the point of having patient advocates when all you seem to know how to do is reply with condescending messages? I would have hoped that being retired from the Army that you may have learned some definitions like patient advocate upon employment with the VA, just in case you didn't. A patient advocate is an employee who is specifically designated at each VHA facility to manage the feedback received from veterans, family members, and friends. The patient advocate works directly with management and employees to facilitate resolutions. Facilitate resolutions. It is not through sending 1-800 numbers and call this number and all that kind of stuff. When a veteran has a very grave issue pertaining to chemo and a nurse committing a federal crime, whoa, where's the resolution calling Stanley Morgan?
Yeah, that's not a very good resolution. I need to look into find out how that number is being populated.
The other thing is, this started off in December. Even Lisa tried to work with this situation. I tried, and all it would have required is some kind of little meeting, maybe an apology or something like that, and work out things, what I call within the family, meaning the local. And so over the last few...
Can I ask you a question?
Yes.
Real quick? Who am I talking to?
Oh, I thought I gave my name. My name is Thomas Hudson.
Hi, Mr. Hudson. Now I know a name. All right. Continue.
Does that, as far as the name, does that change things?
Say again now?
Because I gave you the name, does that change anything?
No, doesn't change anything at all. Just didn't know who I was talking to.
One of the things that I preach is effective communications. With my dealings and working with other veterans across this country and the organization of Veterans March, the Walk-In Veteran, it's always when communications fail and there becomes an impasse. And so what we do is we take it to a very much larger level. And I don't like doing that, especially with my personal dilemmas. And now there's a public story out that's going viral all over the internet and pertaining to this nurse committing a federal crime. Are you familiar with that case?
Nope, I am not familiar.
I did an interview with with someone high up with the VA crisis hotline, also the White House VA hotline, and some other people. I also do broadcasts on the Talking Veteran Radio Network. By the way, you have no problem with this being on radio network, right?
With what? What you do? As far as your...
With our conversation right now.
Well, yeah, of course.
Oh, you give me... It's okay to put you on the radio, right?
No, it's not okay to put me on the radio. I don't give you permission.
Why is that?
Well, because...
Well, guess what?
What?
The VA uses state law. And in the state of Oklahoma, it is not illegal to record.
not illegal to record because it's I think a one-party state. I
Yeah,
believe that's
a lot of states, if you was in Maryland, that would have been a crime. So anyway, that's how we get by, especially in Oklahoma, of putting someone on the radio, especially when we're trying to uncover wrongdoing and things of that nature. So I'd like for you to explain to the audience as what in the world is a patient advocate going to do to bring resolution to this case involving this nurse and what happened back in December. And if you're not up to speed on it, Lisa Murray knows all about it. Mark Hunt knows all about it. And here it happened in December, and here we're going into 1st of April.
Okay, so my response is going to be that you need to speak with those individuals that this has already been reported to.
I ain't got any resolution. Who do you go to? Washington? Why does things always have to go to Washington?
Let's ask this question, Mr. Hudson. Your claim concerns some kind of wrongdoing, I'm assuming, which whatever that is, I don't know. And you say you haven't got a resolution, correct?
Right. You can't get people there to even call you back.
Okay. So you've reported this to 2 advocates, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And there hasn't been a response to you on that?
Well, evidently not, because now we're going to another level.
Okay. So let's do this. Let's get with those advocates that you've spoke to and see what the resolution is, which they're not in their office right at this second. But I can talk with them later and see what's going on and see what the resolution has been and see what's been communicated to you or what's happening. But as far as me opening up an investigation that sounds like what you want me to do, I can't do that because it's already been reported. If that's the case, if what you're telling me from your perspective is true.
Here's one other
I couldn't tell you.
Here's one other question I have. When it comes to veterans having things in their medical records change, you give out these forms that are 4 pages long. Is that form designed there locally in Jackson, Montgomery?
Depending on what kind of change you're asking for in your record, I only think there's one form, and that is basically a medical report or a progress note or some kind of report that you have in your medical chart that you've highlighted that you feel is inaccurate to the record. And we take it to our release of information officer or ISO, and we'll have them review that chart with the provider that put the record in to see if it is appropriate to change the wording. Now, you have to understand some of the wording in the chart is dictated by the author of that note from their opinion of what they interpret in the exam room.
Okay,
So
let me ask you this.
facts might be, we'll say, misunderstood on the record by the reader. That can happen with any note written in the chart.
Let me change this. If a veteran wants to add to a record that is contrary to what the author of the medical note wrote, can they do that?
Adding to the record?
Yes.
You probably could if it's relevant to the chart. Relevant being that it pertains to the medical appointment that you had. It pertains to the direct type of care that you were receiving, or say the doctor ordered a prescription and you wanted the note to read that specific prescription. It pertains to that chart history. Yes, I think that could possibly be done.
I love it.
It's a process.
I love it. How I could sit down with a social worker or a doctor and they could type anything they want to that I say. most of the time they paraphrase you. But yet, if it's involving something that is, like in this case, about a nurse who allegedly committed a federal crime in what she did to me, I cannot go to anybody that would be willing to just sit down and type what my side of the story is.
Well, have you typed down your side of the story and presented it?
Oh, many times. Now it's all in the public.
Who have you presented that story to, and have you, let's say, 3 pages of your story, we're not going to put in a chart. That's irrelevant to put 3 pages of a story in the chart. We want to be short, we want to be simple, and we want to be to the point.
The nurse involved and the other personnel, they didn't get short and to the point. And there's a lot of falsehood. This nurse didn't chart what really happened, and it ended up into the situation. Basically, it is believed by investigators that looked into this that it's basically out of retaliation of what reporting something about another nurse. And here this nurse manager, Patty Sanchez, gets a hold of a message that I sent to a urologist who never saw the message until an ER doctor contacted. And what did she do? Why in the world did her and other people who have nothing to do with my care happen to intercede in that message that was sent to a urologist? And the day before I met with that urologist, and we discussed this issue. So you know what this nurse did? She calls me at 1:30 on a Friday afternoon that day. I was in the restroom, so I got her voicemail. By the time I finished hearing the voicemail, my emergency contact called and said the BA is trying to contact you. And that emergency contact happens to be a mental health counselor. She works for the state of Oklahoma. She works with children. And so she said, let's do a 3-way call. So we call. This nurse wants me to come to the emergency room for a medical procedure. I told her there's no way on earth that I could get to the emergency room that day because I'm 100 miles away. Oh, she assures me they're going to send transportation for me. And I'm thinking, this sounds a little suspicious. 1:30 on a Friday afternoon, going to send transportation 100 miles away for me to go to the ER for them to use conscious sedation to do a medical procedure. I thought on a Friday afternoon. Anyway, so questions were asked and all that. So we go with it. Here they sent over Morgan Medical Transport all the way 100 miles away to get me, to take me back. I go in the emergency room, tell them what I believe I was told that I was there for. And so here, the doctor says I got to contact your urologist who lives in the Tulsa area. And I asked him, I said, do you mind if I go out to the waiting room and wait and I got to make a phone call? No problem. 5 minutes later, a nurse is calling me back in and she wants me to go into a mental health lockup unit for a mental health evaluation. I said, I'm not going in there. Oh, yes, they have talked to her. I said, forget it, I'm leaving. So she comes out, follows me. She's telling the clerks at the emergency room to call the police and call some administrator. And she even charted that I ran. Here I walked over to where the employees and all them go smoke because that's all property. Anybody knows me, my condition, and the fact I had a catheter in, no, I didn't run. I walked slowly. Well, here comes 2 VA police officers, and they were real nice, and I was cordial to them, and I gave in because, I figured we got to straighten this out. But I learned later from the deputy chief they didn't even have jurisdiction to even come over there and ask me to come in or whatever. So I go back in, and then the first thing this doctor said when he came back in was this was one big cluster. He didn't put that in the chart. And the social worker did say this has been one big misunderstanding. Now, where does the crime come in? The Federal Kidnapping Act, the Sixth Court of Federal Appeals ruled years ago that even though someone does not physically kidnap you from across state lines, if they lure you across with the intent of causing loss of liberty. Now, this patient advocate, because of some message that she shouldn't have even got a hold of in her so-called concerns, she knew that if I was coming over there for a mental health evaluation, that I would lose, even if temporary, my liberty. The other thing is she didn't follow VA protocol. If she was so concerned, you're supposed to reach out. I did a radio show and interviewed the crisis hotline. They were flabbergasted that this happened because they would have first reached out to me for me to explain what did I mean. And then there are some things in there says that the ER
about your record.
Yes. The ER doctor has in there that he spoke to him that I claimed that I was going to take a handful of pills. No, that's the biggest lie there is. That's not in no message I sent. Two, I've only spoke to that nurse only one time, and that's when she called. So it's a bunch of lying, it's a bunch of cover-up, and she did it. Even Lisa noted this when I first talked to her. This nurse didn't chart the phone call. So she spends VA's money to have a medical transport to come get me, lured me across state lines under false pretense, and now I find out she is the nurse manager over chemo. There is no way on earth I could go to chemo because there's a lot of tension. You got to understand these people are friends and everything else, and it directly affects healthcare. So why? But then you reach out. I even tried to reach out through other nurses to get a message to her. I tried to leave messages for that Dr. Rudner or whatever her name is. No one will even dare contact you. So when we get into this mode, we're the federal government, we don't need to talk to you. The thing about it, what I've used many times in the past years, when people want to look up on me like I'm some stupid idiot country hick, then at some point, it's not what I know, but who I know. They're going to find out they mess with the wrong veteran. This is why we have these issues from time to time around the country. The VA has drastically changed in the last years because a lot of things are not what you call institutional issues, but more local employee issues.
Well, I apologize to you for your negative experiences here at the VA, but you know where my office is. You know how to contact me. Come see me if there's an issue that develops when you're here. Come talk to me immediately so that I can respond and so that I can react.
Okay,
I'll be glad to help you with those issues if they develop like that.
No, wait a minute. Hold on a minute. Keeping within the directives that the VA has put out concerning like the risk of virus and all that kind of stuff, making a 100-mile trip to come see a patient advocate when I try to use secure messaging and telephone, we're just.
Well, I'm talking about when you're here at the hospital. If you're doesn't set well with you, or you haven't heard from the VA in regards to, let's say, an appointment or something like that, and you need to get something started, give us a call. We're all ears.
So you're telling me that the fact that we can't resolve what I just explained so I could get my chemo and try to come to a resolution on this, there's nothing you can do?
Did you specifically say, I want chemo done somewhere else?
I can't get chemo done somewhere else.
That's what you want.
No. I get a shot once a month in chemo at the VA. My oncologist, who's an outside civilian oncologist, when that was set up, I was told that you will continue getting your shots at the VA because they're the one who orders the shot. And I got the pharmacy there on my back wanting to know what to do with the shot. But yet I can't go to the oncology clinic where I go to now and get the shot. I have to go to the VA. But you got a nurse manager who I allege violated a federal crime against me and spreading all kind of stuff around up there. And you think that we can't get this resolved? Then what's the point of having patient advocates?
Well, here's the point for having a patient advocate. I can assist you, I can help you, and I can take care of things for you on your behalf, just like we're doing right now. That's why you're calling me. I can't change the past. There's no way I can do that. I mean, it happens. Whatever happens has happened. But now that we have communicated and we've talked with each other, I kind of understand what your expectations are. You can't go to chemo because there's a young lady there that you have tension with. And of course, you're going there once a month for what I understand is a chemo shot, correct?
Supposed to be.
When's the last time you had a shot?
Oh, that's 2 months ago because I went up there and...
When do you need another shot?
I missed the shot because when I went there this past month, I went up there and I started hyperventilating and all that kind of stuff and all this controversy. And I don't feel right that you got someone commits a federal crime against someone and then they're over the employees that you want to trust to give you that shot. And that shot is not, it's not like going to your primary care doctor and the nurse just gives you a shot. It's a very delicate thing, and then it takes, it doesn't just stick in and push it in and take it out. It takes a few moments.
Okay.
And
do you mind if I coordinate some energy and effort here with the chemo team to see if we can make accommodation for you?
Yeah, I'd love that because I've tried, my best, but I can't get anybody to call me. Like, for instance, the primary care team. Is there anybody else that's capable and trained to give that type of shot out other than chemo nurses?
Probably not. I don't know that to be the fact for sure, but if I understand you're going through chemo, I understand that there is a specific medication that you have to have. It's probably a very expensive medication which has a little bit of control on it. It has to be handled in a certain manner that is safe for you, and so that we don't waste any of it as well, too. I mean, there's some coordination that has to go into it, so it's probably best that it stays with chemo.
Right.
But if I know ahead of time, chemo knows ahead of time that you are to have a shot on whatever scheduled day, we may be able to make an accommodation so that we don't have any interaction with, we'll say, the alleged allegation with the staff. Okay?
But what about this nurse manager? The point is, it still is unresolved.
Okay, so
does the executive
innocent until proven guilty?
Yeah, but if you look at the evidence,
okay, so here's the thing: I haven't heard anything from you that tells me there has been a crime committed.
Will
I
you?
have not heard anything that has merit to a crime that has committed. I
You
understand that you've communicated this to someone back in December, and here it is going on March, but nothing's happened of it. So I would think if there were something that was merited, or we'll say has happened in that manner, something would have developed between now and then.
wait a minute. See,
But
this
I
is
don't
where
know that to be the fact, because this is the first time I've heard of it.
this is where we get really condescending. Number one, if you look at a website called veteranonveteran.com, they're the ones who broke the story, and there's an extreme detailed report by Veterans March and the legal backing up to the crime. And here I explained to you that the woman lured me across state lines under false pretenses, knowing that I would lose liberty.
I don't think that's the case. Nobody knows.
Oh, what?
Here's the thing.
Do you mind if I ask, what year did you graduate from law school?
I did not graduate from law school.
Because that story in Veterans March is backed up by some very...
Hudson, I cannot diagnose you over the phone.
I'm not asking you to diagnose. I'm reaching out and asking you to help.
That's what our staff are saying. They cannot diagnose someone over the phone. They can only advise somebody what they need to do. And they choose to do that.
I am not asking you to diagnose anything. You're not a medical professional. However, I reached out to you, and to this point, we have not even got any kind of ideal of any type of resolution. I spelled out in detail, like, for instance, having a meeting with these people or anything else. Everything y'all do here is against the national VA output. Here I'm claiming that you got a nurse manager. I've got evidence, and it's very evident that it happened. Very evident. But to all these other attorneys across the country that gives advice and and the investigators and everything, and they conclude it. And they give the legal, sites, the definitions. But yet no one in the executive office of the Jack C. Montgomery VA Medical Center will even entertain the idea of even talking to me. And that's the reason why everything has to get out of hand and go to a much higher level. And that's what happened back in 2016 when I went to speak in Congress. Why do we have to go to such great lengths to get our voices heard? And if you can't get a patient advocate to hear you and try to spell out the things without making, as you would say, diagnosis, what's the point of having patient advocates? In other words, what have you come up with in terms of how we could go about coming to a resolution pertaining this nurse? Now, you have access to her and what's in those medical records, but also there's another side to the story also. How do we bring those together and resolve it? I would think that someone in your position should know exactly what to do.
You're right. And I know exactly what to do. And the only thing I know how to do this is to work with the chemo team and work with you on an appointment to come in if that's what you wish, and to avoid conflict.
All right, one last question. All right.
Yes.
We talked about the chemo part, which I do appreciate. However, there's been allegations brought to you about a crime. So what are we going to do on that front?
Well, if you've
just ignore it?
You've already reported this. I have nothing to do with it at this point. You've already reported it.
To patient advocates.
That's right.
So now we're...
To two patient advocates, and now you're saying you're reporting it to me, but you've already reported it. It's not new news.
But yet nothing has been done. Here we're going into April.
And
Do you know?
And then again, Mr. Hudson, there may not be anything that needs to be done.
Oh,
Now, I'm hearing you, though. I've heard you. I've listened to you.
do you really?
And I've heard you say a lot of things here, but
Let me ask you
a
this.
chance to look into it. You're asking me a question to give you an answer on.
Let me ask you this. And before, as we conclude, again, I want to invite you to look at veteranonveteran.com and look at her pictures on there. I think the title is something like "Nurse Commits Federal Crime" and all. Look at that story and read it. And then I want to ask you one last thing. Do you have any idea?
Nurse commits federal crime, right?
Something like that.
Okay.
Of course, there are several websites this has gone on and all that kind of stuff, and people calling, I've been ignored. But here's one last question. With your conversation and me literally trying to beg you to do something in regards to what we've been talking about, do you have any idea how stupid this conversation is going to sound on the radio?
I have no idea.
Anyway, I thank you for talking. This is Thomas Hudson with the Talking Veteran Radio Network.
Good morning, citizens, and happy Easter. This is the voice, your voice. Things are not looking good for our man Kowalski, the lone wolf, the last American hero. He's running north, up Idaho Route 51, with the state police on his tail and a welcoming committee forming up ahead in the town of Riddle. Will the state finally crush this free spirit, or will an Easter miracle save him? Now, Kowalski has said he's no hero, but of course, modesty is one of the prime virtues of heroism. He's an ordinary man, forced into extraordinary actions by the mindless mechanical bureaucracy which seems determined to control every aspect of our lives. But citizens, let me ask you this. When an ordinary man like Kowalski is pilloried and vilified, where are we going as a society? What road are we driving down when everything we say or do may violate some new government regulation? When we are all criminals, who is free?